Good morning. It is Phoenix Amore. So, time to kind of get some clarity with some of the things going on, because some people, when I had to break it down and say that I am not all into the whole hip hop culture, understand something. When I also spoke in regards to listening to different types of music to keep yourself grounded, the reason I said that, and some parents started realizing, right, as they're asking the kids a little bit more about the culture, you had this lady come out, right, or a few people, let's just be honest, some of the Jewish folks came out and said, wait, if we had known this one alter egos or supposedly Jewish and all this, we wouldn't have been okay with that. Now, that's their issue with the person. Now, they've come into an awareness about how all this plays out. But even more so, what I wanted to kind of express to people, what starts to happen, and this is where I stay in my lane, right? Now that I push people out of my lane, I'm like, listen, seeing as how I've been the spiritual adept, right, which is what basically my lyrics said, understand something very clearly. When I understand the culture does not mean I want to be a part of the culture. That is a mistake that had been made, right? And this is why I examined that whole thing when I said part of what happens is the psychological warfare dominion. I call your mind dominion. So there becomes a battle, right, for your dominion when you're listening to music, and a lot of people don't understand that. So when I talk about my son does listen to rap some, he also listens to other type music. My oldest is that same way. So basically what starts to happen is they start to take on the traits or the behavior of what they're hearing in the music if they're not grounded enough. That's the key thing. This is why I said, if you noticed when I put the picture up of myself showing my back in the red bra, some of their minds went to, ooh, she's finally loosening up. No, this is what I'm saying about having a strong enough dominion to be like, I knew what they were already thinking because that's their world. And then somebody came out and said, you know what? They try to turn them out. So if you think about it, that is basically like a vampire, right? Trying to turn people into vampires or other creatures in that respect, if you want to use that word. So as I was speaking to this client and we got to kind of catch up a bit, this is why I stress to people, the kind of clients I have, see, some people hear the term clients and think, oh, what is she, a stripper or escort? This is the craziness of what happens if you have people that come from two different quote-unquote worlds and they can't hear me because they're like, well, she said client. Yes, because I've been doing readings for a very long time. I have clients, but the kind of clients that I attract to me are usually professional clients, only because of the way I communicate too. When they get in the reading, they get a very clear reading. But when I talk about God blessing me, right, when I talk about master of both worlds, those are all the things that I was speaking on. So now when people understand, I can understand the culture, but I never asked you guys to try to make me a part of the culture. And that's the thing, is when somebody takes such an offense to some of that, right? Just like when they say, oh, she's uptight. It's not, what did I say? Call me what you want to call me. But at the end of the day, I know the truth of the matter about my own personality and who I am. I'm very strong in who I am. So them calling me uptight, I'm like, all right, well, say what you want to say, but let's talk about the issues that are plaguing girls. You have the suicide rate that has skyrocketed because these girls have been trying to look a certain way. Not just that, but meet a certain image. When you want to say you care about black girls, and this is what I was expressing to them before, you have to be careful because they are trying to copy and mimic the lifestyle that they are seeing or hearing in some of the music. That means you have the 18, the 17-year-olds, right, out there with the twerking videos and drinking and pill popping. Because guess what? They're young, they're impressionable, so they are following the lead, right, of these idols. So when I came at them at a way of being African American woman, right, understanding that I care a lot about girls and their self-esteem, understanding that I am a woman because I worked in a male-dominated field that experienced sexual harassment regularly, not trying to sound cocky. And this is what I told dude, get off my page when you say you think you all that. I'm like, listen, you cannot break my confidence in that respect. You can't even get on my page and tell me what my intentions are on my page. My intentions are this: I'm attractive. I worked in male-dominated fields. I had to work on base before, even though I was a contractor. God bless the fact that I was a contractor, because I didn't have to take certain things, right? Because I was not in the position that I had to stay. I could be like, no, I don't have to deal with this. But it didn't mean that all military people were like that, or military men, just a few. And so they didn't know how to handle me, because I'm like, listen, at the end of the day, I don't care what you make of me just because I dress well. And I explained that story to people before. So on the opposite spectrum of things, right, this guy, very arrogant in his nature, right, he hired me because he saw this attractive person. I've been hired twice that way, and then they get blown away when they're like, she really knows her stuff. So I didn't use my looks per se, but just understanding human nature. All right, I'm kind of getting the vibe that this dude is a little but I'm going to go ahead and do the job. And then it hits a different kind of insecurity for a man. So the sexual harassment sometimes actually comes out of their own insecurity, trying to break your confidence as a woman. So when people talk about walking in their shoes, I walked in a whole lot of shoes at 40. That's what God did for me. So getting back to what I'm saying to people, when you talk about all this hip-hop stuff, I finally just going to break it down for people. And you're looking at like, so-and-so owes so-and-so, who owes so-and-so, right? That is how crazy it is, for real. Now you see the point that I made where I'm like, why don't y'all just do each other right? It's hard to look at these same people as charitable when they had been stealing from each other, right? And these are black on black. This is the craziness where I was trying to explain to them, like, don't try to say you're empowering black people and we looking at y'all stealing from each other and other folks. How do you even say you're trying to empower when your behavior is like that? Some of them heard me. This is where you have all this stuff coming out, right, in these articles where people like, she has a point. Getting into this whole thing when I talked about Jihadi John and all this stuff, right? And I said, in his lyrics, he mentioned Beatles. And then I had to break it down for you on that occult level. I said, oh, I wonder why he was talking about Legion and all this kind of stuff, right? So listening to that and then trying to break it down to these same folks, I mentioned a specific name that Jihadi John mentioned. Said he sent me back like a curse. So for some of you guys, right, I said the Carter, and you know, they'll go, ha ha, no, but it's not funny. So while some of you are actually looking at it like, okay, actually it's a bigger issue, because now you're talking about that occult and that dabbling in that stuff. So some of the hold up and all that you read because some other guy's holding up the album, that's how they do. But at the same time, step back and now think. Some of them actually heard me loud and clear. This stuff broke through. So now you have what? Again, do not make my message about celebrity gossip when I'm trying to tell you the veil broke. So now you have somebody else, the T-Pain comes out and it's like, yeah, Carter, Lil Wayne owes me money for royalties. So all these little contractual things, this is what I say, you know you owe, they got it. And that's what you have to understand. But on the spiritual plane, when it finally breaks through, because they also try to come across, right, as these enlightened activists for black folks stealing from each other, though, you have to imagine why God was like, y'all got to fix y'all own mess before you can act like you are the end-all be-all messenger for African Americans. And that's what I was saying to my girlfriend / client. I was like, girl, if they could hear, because she's saying some of the same stuff. She said it's so weird because they actually feel like they can be the voice. I said that's the scary part. They come into activism, but they haven't cleaned up their own dirt in that realm. If you can't see them treating each other right, how you coming into any other situation and saying, hey, because I'm the voice of blah blah blah, then I should be able to do this? No. And she said the same thing. The platform, abusing the platform, that's the thing that's become dangerous, is when they have X amount of followers, they're pushing out messages, and half the time they don't even know what they're really saying. They just want to be in the fray, as I call it, and sound like, hey, I'm making a difference. But what kind of difference? Is it a negative or a positive difference? So with that being said, this whole trend where it's been this in thing, understand with this whole celebrity, pop, rap, whatever it is, because they are still people, right, that have had histories of, you know, contractual agreements, whatever's going on with them. A lot of them have done some very shady things to get to where they are. They don't necessarily always share that, but that's the truth in the matter. So now you basically got a situation where what used to be seen as prestigious is kind of like that person had a whole lot of grimy karma on them. This is where I get into the spiritual thing, the whole energy thing, right? When I said, now as soon as they put that picture up, because I said so-and-so was speaking through music, ooh, here's an opportunity to give so-and-so some shine. That is not the time to try to give so-and-so some shine. So you see, and I pointed out, every single person that was in that article, in those pictures with those artists, right, they did crappy. Danny Green has had 2 crappy games. What has happened is what I call piggyback. If I say something about, I sent a wink to so-and-so, you have some of these artists like, ooh, let me go get in with so-and-so. She mentioned his name, her name. That is not how that was supposed to work. I'm speaking from a spiritual stance. And so when they try to then piggyback it like a marketing opportunity, boom, it's hitting that person. Danny Green, boom. What's going on with him? What's wrong with him? There you go. This game, he did even worse. And then guess what happened to Aldrich? Who's on that picture? Oh, you mean the same fool that I said Yachty John said sent him back like a curse? So all this occult stuff hit him in one night. So you got to see exactly what I said. I'm going to pull my energy back from that. That's why I call it self-preservation. I know about all that occult stuff. I'm not into it like that. When I talk about being healer, I can see it. So when I see certain stuff like that, because that person, right, regardless if that's his favorite rapper, owes for real on that spiritual plane, as you can now see, and that's why people are saying he had a tendency to steal from other artists. That spiritual plane, all that stuff that I was talking about, these fools owing, that's that negativity, that bad energy. So it's not about just the song, it's the person and their energy. When I talked about the tarot cards, the tarot decks that I use is no different. There's Crowley. I threw that deck away so fast, y'all could So as soon as I read just enough about him to say, oh, this is in the trash, it's that same concept, because I know how I was raised, right? I believe in God, believe in Holy Trinity. There's certain things I know that I'm not going to cross the boundary. So just what I was talking about with that deck of cards is no different with the music. The person connected to the music, the person connected to that deck, you better understand what you're getting yourself into. Otherwise, you're going to have some big time issues. So with that being said, I hope that clarifies some things for people. You guys have a very, very blessed day. Take care.